And I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly here, Dr. Kent Hovind. So welcome to RieRie Talk Show.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And yes, it is correctly. Hovind is Norwegian. That's the way you pronounce it, Hovind. So you got it.
All right, awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about, evolutionists versus creationists. And of course, you all know the purpose and the mission here at RieRie Talk Show is by showcasing stories, real life stories about life transformation by following Jesus Christ. And I am so honored that we have the opportunity to bring on Dr. Kent Hovind to talk to you about shed some light on the end of time. And of course, I am going to put this out there, everybody, okay? I just got this wonderful book, and Dr. Kent Hovind signed it for me. I'm really, really blessed about what on earth is about to happen, for heaven's sake. So I won't spoil it because I'm going to have him, talk a little bit about it, and I'm going to ask him a couple of questions today. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, and if you want Dr. Kent Hovind to come on out and speak and educate on the God of the Holy Bible who we love, please let us know at marie@contactjustgorgeous.com. So with that being said, Dr. Kent Hovind, where are you right now? Because I know you have a super, super busy schedule.
I am in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I spoke last night. I speak again tonight in Fayetteville, and then go over to another church near Charlotte for tomorrow night. And then I speak in Charlotte Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Michael Rood Conference, the Rood Awakening, and then go back home to Lenox, Alabama, population 35.
Did you say population 35?
Well, 37 now with Mary and I there. Lenox is 7 miles dead north of Pensacola, Florida, and it is out in the middle of the boondocks. Someone gave us the property, an old gravel pit, nearly 150 acres, and we're building a Christian camp there, Dinosaur Adventureland. Having a blast.
That is amazing, and I know that you have an open house coming up here fairly soon when you get back home. Is that true?
Right, April 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We're not actually open yet, but it's our open house to show folks. That's the 1-year anniversary of us getting the property. We're just going to let folks come see the progress. If anybody's listening and is bored, bring a hammer, get out there and get to work. We got lots of work to do.
Oh, absolutely. So ladies and gentlemen, you better get on out there and get to work. We would love to have you. Look, I'm already adding myself to the team, right? Now, Dr. Kent Hovind, I've been following you now for a couple of months. I actually had a worldwide live mini debate that absolutely I wasn't ready for, but thank you for the education and for teaching us in regards to the difference and what is evolutionist versus the creationist. Can you tell me, how did you get started? I know you were saved at 16. How did all this come about?
Well, I was raised in Illinois, became a Christian at age 16, and started going to a little Baptist church and reading my Bible and, got baptized and all that stuff, and went off to college. When I first moved to Pensacola, I had been teaching high school science for 15 years, science and mathematics. I moved to Pensacola back in January of '89, and the neighbor kid asked if I'd like to take the newspaper because he threw the paper for the area, and I said, no, I don't have a parakeet. That's the only thing the newspaper is good for that I can think of. But he said, if I have an extra, can I throw it in your yard? I said, sure. So every once in a while, we'd get a newspaper. I'd only been in town for a couple of weeks, and an article came out in the paper that said dinosaur bones are found in Montana from 80 million years ago. Typical propaganda. So I wrote my first ever letter to the editor. I said, no, these dinosaur bones are not 80 million years old. The whole world's only 6,000 years old. God made it in 6 days. Dinosaurs lived with man. They called them dragons, and they drowned in the flood. And so these are bones from one that drowned in the flood about 4,400 years ago. And they published my letter to the editor. And that started a war in Pensacola. I got called everything but a white boy for the next 6 months. Finally, some students from the local university, University of West Florida, said, would you like to come debate one of our professors?
Oh, wow.
I said, well, I've never had a debate in my life except with my wife, and I lose those every time. But sure. So I had my first ever debate. About 1,000 people showed up, and I slaughtered the poor guy. And a lot of pastors were there, and they said, wow, would you come share this information at our church? It had been a hobby of mine for years to collect information on the scientific accuracy of the Bible, how the earth cannot possibly be billions of years old, and doing it all from a science perspective.
Wow.
And it just was a hobby of mine, collecting information, and it's now become a full-time ministry since 1990, traveling and speaking on that topic, defending the Bible as being scientifically accurate. I've had 114 debates now and cannot find any more opponents. What's that noise a chicken makes? Tell them I'll be glad to come take them all on with half my brain tied behind my back.
I love that. And that is one thing that I absolutely love about your debates that I've watched. And of course, there is this famous video out there that you are the #1 most hated man in America by the Illuminati and the Atheist. Why do you think that is, Dr. Kent Hovind?
Well, I have known me for 64 years, and I'll have to say I am the nicest guy I've ever met.
Indeed.
I don't know why they don't like me. I think it's because it's a threat to their lifestyle. You see, accepting creation up in the head, saying, okay, there's a creator. It doesn't stop there. Now it affects your whole life. When I spoke at Berkeley University years ago, nobody would debate me. They asked 146 professors. All of them refused. So I just simply spoke for an hour and a half. Afterwards, a big football player from Berkeley came up to me and he said, evolution is a fact. I said, calm down, son, you're going to blow a gasket. I said, suppose what I said tonight is true. Suppose the creation story is true and the Bible is true. If you chose to believe that, would that affect your lifestyle any? He was real quiet for nearly a minute. He said, that would change everything. I said, now be honest for a minute. Have you accepted evolution because you really have some evidence or because you like the freedom it gives you from God?
Wow.
He said, I've accepted evolution because I'm horny.
Wow.
I said, well, son, thank you for your honesty. Now, listen, every male of every species, from termites to whales, has that problem, but that's not a reason to reject God. Okay.
You're absolutely right about that.
Okay. God said replenish the earth, and he made sure it would happen. So.
Indeed, indeed. Wow. Now, I mean, of course, like you said, the debates that I've seen, there are just so many, and it's interesting that you said that, Dr. Kent Hovind, is because people are so uncomfortable when they find out that God of the Bible and the creationist or the creator will make their lifestyle uncomfortable. What would you say about some of the false prophets that have gone out to the world who preaches motivational and inspirational messages, but not the God that condemns, not the God that has laws, not the God that is just?
Well, I think they're setting people up for grand disappointment, Judgment Day. There will be a test. I mean, there's going to be a judgment. In 2 Peter chapter 3, which is one of our websites, 2peter3.com, in 2 Peter chapter 3, it says, in the last days, the scoffers will be willingly ignorant about the creation, the flood, and the coming judgment. I preached for years on the creation and the flood, and where did the water come from? What did it do? Where did it go? And I didn't really talk much about the coming judgment end times because I just wasn't completely sure myself. And I studied and worked hard, and I've been a Christian 48 years. And finally, about 8 years ago, I said, that's it. I'm going to write a book. And I wrote that book you have right there. What on earth is about to happen, for heaven's sake? What does the Bible teach is coming in the future? And I think you'll be a fool not to get ready for that. We're going to stand before God. And the Bible says we're going to be judged by every word we've ever spoken, every thought we ever thought, every deed we ever did. I think most people better look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm in trouble. I need to get this record erased. And the only thing that can completely expunge the record is the blood of Jesus Christ. Absolutely. So when I stand before God, he's going to say, record clean, come on in. And the people who know me say, oh, wait, I know he sinned. Yes, I'm a sinner, but Jesus paid for it. So
Amen.
You'd be a fool not to accept that payment, in my humble, totally unbiased opinion.
Amen to that. Now, Dr. Hovind, I had an email from one of our fans out there when they saw I was promoting that you were going to be a guest. And he said, now, what would be the difference between Dr. Hovind and Joel Osteen and T.D. Jakes and Joyce Myers, because he actually sent me a link, which I had no idea about, that these are some of the, you know, preachers that were life coaches on television that was literally busted, per se, for making multiple $1 million. And what I found about you've waived your rights on your materials so people can copy them. Hence, some of these multi-millionaires, for instance, Joyce Meyer, $90 million a year. What would you say to this guy? Because he's saying, well, why isn't Dr. Hovind making the millions of dollars that these pastors are making? And I was like,
Well, I wish I knew the answer to that. I'm sure. I don't have anything against him. I've listened to probably 50 of T.D. Jakes' sermons and loved them. I think he's doing great work. As far as how the finances work there, I don't know. I know we spend it a little faster than we get it at Dinosaur Adventureland, and everything I've ever gotten in my life has gone into the ministry of winning souls and influencing other people. And I have, I think, $80 in the bank, and I drive a van that's got 275,000 miles on it. We figured the other day, if we put about $5,000 into it, it's going to be worth about $50. So I've never had a new car. It's just, I'm in a different world. I don't think that way. Oh, hang on. It said, thank you for choosing Zoom.
oh, sorry, that was probably me on my end. I had to get some little technical, so you're good. You're good.
Okay.
We're good.
So my goal is very different. My goal is not to get rich or make money. I just want to please God and win souls. And so I probably could have simply, copyrighted my videos. I think 10 million of them have gone out in 42 languages. So I probably could be a millionaire, but I tell people, I always have, please copy them, give them to your friends.
Yes.
Now we had to finally copyright them because some of the atheists were editing things, changing my words around to make me say things I didn't say. So we said, look, they're copyrighted, but you can copy it if you don't change it and you don't sell it. It's my intellectual property. Buy it from our ministry if you want, drdino.com, D-R-D-I-N-O. But yeah, that's always been my policy. We want to win the war, not build a castle.
There you go. Thank you so much. And I hope to Junior down in South California, you got your your question answered. I was going through so many questions. Now, Dr. Hovind, what would you like to tell the individuals who are out there who are seeking? Now, of course, I've been sharing your video, but if they were in Christ, but then the counsel that they received stirred them away and they have gone astray. Now, in order to bring those individuals back, which I know someone right now who's in the radio media per se, what would you do, or what can we do to bring them back into the gospel?
Well, I look at my life and say, what am I doing that's going to matter in 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years? There are 4 things you can invest your time, energy, and money in. You can invest your time and energy and money in things that last for a few minutes or a few hours. Is it possible out in California where you live to spend $30 on yourself on one meal?
Yes.
What do you have 6 hours later? Nothing, right? You just invested in something that's only going to last a few hours. Now, is it possible to spend $50,000 on a new car?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. You just invested in something that's going to last a few years. Probably smarter than buying a $50,000 meal, but it's still only going to last a few years. You can spend your time, energy, and money in things that are going to last a whole lifetime, like going to college and getting a degree, or a house would probably fit into that category, or real estate or something. But then your lifetime comes to an end and that comes to an end. Or you can spend your time, energy, and money on things that last forever. And that's what I want to do. You want a few hours? Yeah.
Or the lifetime span. That is
lifetime.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Now, I had a mini debate. It was broadcasted worldwide on a very public, sports radio show. And of course, there's this argument between the evolutionist and the creationist that we have evolved through time with the Big Bang theory about the stars. Now, of course, I'm not a scientist, so forgive me if I'm actually saying these or putting them in the wrong terms. But people, instead of believing the Holy Bible that we do have a God, the Almighty, they want to go all the way back and say, well, you know, there were fishes, we evolved from the fish, and then there was this, you know, the flood. Well, of course, they don't even want to acknowledge that the flood of Noah existed, but they utilize Darwin. And I believe, from what I understand, Darwin in the 1800s used to be a priest or a pastor. He was a Christian at one point in time.
Well, he went to school to be a preacher. His dad was concerned that he would never amount to anything because he was so lazy. So he sent him to school to be a preacher, because in the Anglican church, they kind of take care of their people whether they work or not. So he wanted to get him a job in the Anglican church. And before he, when he finished, I don't know if he finished college or not, but his dad sent him on a trip, the HMS Beagle, to sail around the world and collect bugs for somebody back in England for their bug collection. And Darwin, he loved worms, so he hated birds because birds would eat worms, and he thought that was kind of mean to eat the worm. So he shot every bird. Hang on, my phone is still ringing here. There we go. He shot every bird he could find. He collected birds also. He went to the Galapagos Islands, and he noticed there were 14 different kinds of varieties of a finch, a little bitty bird called a finch. He noticed the island where the birds have tougher food to eat, like nuts to crack, their beak was a little thicker. But if they lived on an island where they had softer seeds to eat, then their beak was a little thinner. And he said, wow, I bet these thick beak and thin beak birds had a common ancestor. I agree, Charlie. It was called a bird. And then he said, maybe this proves birds are related to bananas. What? He said, all animals and all plants throughout all time and space are related to each other. And his evidence was, one of his evidences, the primary one, was the beaks of these birds. See, the Bible 10 times in Genesis chapter 1 says the animals will bring forth after their kind, not species, kind, K-I-N-D. And then you read the flood story in Genesis 6 and 7, and you see the same thing again. 10 times it says God told Noah to bring the animals onto the ark, or the animals went off of the ark, after their sort, after their kind. 10 times it says that. So it's real clear, the Bible, and that's all anybody has ever seen in all of history is animals producing after their kind. Right. You have what, 7 children? Are they human?
Yes.
none of them even part ape?
No, absolutely not.
They act like it once in a while, but no.
They may act like apes, but no.
What he observed is what we sometimes call microevolution. I think that's a terrible term, but they use it, so let's use it. It's true. Dogs, wolves, coyotes probably had a common ancestor, but they're the same kind of animal, and a 5-year-old knows that. So it's sad that the evolutionists use this evidence that really supports creation, that, hey, God created the animals, and he gave them to bring forth after their kind, which means there's something in the genetic code that provides a limit to how far the changes can go. They're always going to be the same kind. You may selectively breed your dogs and end up selecting the smallest of the batch, and pretty soon you have a Chihuahua or a Dachshund or something really small, but it's still a dog. Or you could select the largest and eventually get a herd of Great Danes or something, but you still have a dog. The point is, they're still the same kind. And so the evolutionists, they will never admit that that's where it stops. In their mind, they have this grandiose vision of it going infinitely forever after that. That's why I say evolution's a religion. They believe in it, which is fine. You can believe whatever you want. But I don't want to pay for it to be taught in the school system. They should go start a private school and teach evolution to anybody who wants to pay and come learn it. But get it out of the textbooks. And they especially should not lie about their evidence. My video number 4, called Lies in the Textbooks. You can get it on drdino.com. The whole seminar is 18 hours and it's $50 for everything. drdino.com. But number 4 is almost 2 hours long, just titled Lies in the Textbooks. And they hate that one.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do, because it reveals.
All the evidence they use for their theory, I expose it and say, look, this is not true. One atheist I was debating, he said, now, folks, Hovind is right. These things are not true. But he said, Hovind, I got a question for you. You want to take all these things out of the textbooks. What are you going to replace it with? I said, hold on a minute. You're telling me I can't take a lie out of the book until I find a replacement. How about just shorten the book by 20 pages?
Just remove the lies, period, right?
The kids would. You don't need the lies in there. If that's all you have for your evidence for your theory are lies, well, then I'm sorry, you got a problem. You need to get a new theory.
That is amazing. And thank you so much for that, because so many people out there didn't realize, I mean, including myself, I had no idea. I mean, of course, obviously I didn't pay attention in high school to science because I never really came to understand the evolutionist theory and their, you know, and their strategy of trying to brainwash not only our children, but for those who have not come to know Christ. And
Right.
My other question is for you, Dr. Hovind, is, you know, people have been seeking for that true church. And that was one of the other questions that I got. They said, well, how do we find the true church? How do we know God is real? And if he is real, there's so many different churches. How do we know that they're teaching us the true gospel?
Well, if you look at the Bible, you can read the whole Bible in about 66 hours, and it's 66 books in the Bible. So you could read the whole thing in 66 hours, roughly. Just read it. The Bible talks about quite a few different topics. In Bible college, they learn those as Bible doctrines. You know, what is the doctrine of salvation? What is the doctrine of baptism? What is the doctrine of, you know, angels, etc.? I would divide all churches up into two simple categories. See, God blessed me years ago by keeping me permanently in 4th grade. I like to keep things real simple. Okay. As I listened to all the creation speakers years ago, I said, wow, that is really good. What did he say? He's really. I said,
Speak English to me.
Somebody to explain this at 4th grade level. And so that's where my specialty is. And that drives the atheists crazy. But anyway, I divide all churches, all religions in the world can be put into two categories: Cain and Abel. If you know the story from Genesis chapter 4, Cain brought his fruit, his vegetables to God. He said, God, look what I did for you. And God would not accept it. Most religions in the world are trying to approach God or please God or go to heaven based on their works. It's not going to do it. It's not going to make it. The Catholic Church, they try so hard to please God. You know, look how many times I said these prayers. Look how many Hail Marys I did. Look how many, you know, whatever. The Mormons, the Muslims. Look, the Muslims try very hard to please their God. You know, they think if they go kill people who don't believe, they've done God a service. So there's no question that they're sincere.
Right.
But the question is, are they right? And is it going to work? And that's where Cain brought his fruit and vegetables, and God did not accept it. Abel brought an innocent sacrifice and said, God, would you take this lamb in my place? And God said, you got it, boy. That's the way you get through. And so all religions can be put in those two categories, the do and the done category. Is there something you do, or is it already done? It's already done by Jesus Christ on the cross. He said, it's finished. It's finished. It's done. Your redemption is paid for. So I would look for a church that believes your salvation is something that was paid for by Jesus Christ. You just need to believe and receive it. So the doctrine of salvation would be a major dividing issue. And that into two basic piles, the Cain and the Abel group, for lack of a better term. Then after that, I would look at a couple of other major doctrines, like, can you lose that salvation? What if you sin after that? Are you now lost again? And I think the Bible's very clear. Salvation is a gift from God, and he promises you shall have eternal life. Not you're going to get it, you have it. John 3:16, you know, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. Whosoever believeth in him hath, right now, hath everlasting life. It doesn't say you're going to get it, you've got it. So if you could lose it, it's not everlasting.
Wow.
It was temporary life that he gave you. And but anyway, that doctrine of eternal security is another doctrine that divides churches into two piles. Yes, you can lose it, or no, you can't, because it's based on Jesus Christ.
Right.
So I look at doctrine like the doctrine of baptism. There are churches who baptize babies. If you look at the book of Acts, in chapter 8, Philip is riding along in a chariot with a guy he just met, and he talks about getting saved and all that, and the guy says, "Hey, here's some water. Can I get baptized?" And in Acts 8:37, Philip says, "If you believe with all your heart, you can get baptized." He said, "I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God." Well, the guys who believe in baptizing babies in their church, they didn't like that verse, so they took it out.
Oh, wow.
Look up Acts 8:37 in an NIV, in a Revised Standard. The King James is one of the only versions that has that verse in there. So I would look for a church that teaches from the King James Bible for multiple reasons. To me, that's a dividing issue. These other ones are missing 200 verses and thousands of words. Even in the very first verse in the Bible, you can't even read 7 words without finding a difference. King James says, "In the beginning, God created the heaven," singular. All the rest of them say heavens, plural. Well, somebody's wrong.
Right.
Who is it? I cover that on my video. Is it heaven or heavens? That's only the 7th word. So,
wow.
As far as finding the right church, I look for one that believes salvation is a gift from God. It's by grace. It's not of our works of righteousness which we have done, and you can't possibly lose it. And baptism is only for believers. You don't baptize the babies, And so there's quite a few different teachings of the Bible that I don't think you'll ever find a perfect church. But if you look at, like, you're looking for the perfect car, well, you say, does it have good gas mileage? Does it have a strong engine? Does it have 4 doors? What exactly are you looking for? It's kind of that way with the church, Look at some of these different doctrines and say, which ones am I willing to compromise on?
Right.
And try to find the perfect one, but then don't join it, because you'll wreck it if you do.
Well, then, of course, it all comes down to, like you said, it's the plan of salvation, and that's what we're all after, and it's
Right.
obviously a gift for us. Now, Dr. Hovind, I know that we have a few minutes. I know that we're probably going to have to do a part 2, because, of course, with our webinar, whatnot, they always give us limits, like the evolving stuff, right? From the evolution.
Right.
Because you said that there's a limited to everything. And I want to make sure that people understand, because we were going to share a little bit about the end of times. There's been a lot going on. For instance, there's a company called Athiest Corporation. Not sure if you're familiar with them. They are headquartered out of Texas. They're about to release this Savvy 5G, where it creates a somewhat, not the towers, but a satellite box, which it'll, ping off of every phone or digital, device that we use. And it's called that it will hunt us. And then, of course, people are saying, well, we're looking for the mark of the beast, the chip is coming out. Well, that was all conspiracy. And then we have the questions of, I believe about 10, 15, or 20 years ago, they started buying people's broken gold jewelry and broken silver, because 15, 20 years ago, people were talking about, like yourself, that the face dollar value is a note, and none of us knew about that. Now, all these are signs of the end of times, or is it a tribulation that's coming, like what happened in the book of Daniel's? People are like, nah, this is all a bunch of baloney. It's not real.
Well, the Bible, hundreds of prophecies so far, they either all come true or are coming true. The church I'm speaking at this week, and tonight's the last night, they got us a room at a hotel, Fairfield Inn, here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and they gave me a little card to get in the room. But you just touch it to the door and it opens it. There's a little chip inside this card. It's got to be tiny. There's not even a bump in the card, just a little chip. The technology to have a chip put in every human being where you have to buy or sell is here. It's here now. And in Sweden, they're putting microchips in a lot of their people. The Mexican government's putting microchips in a lot of their leaders. And I don't know that Revelation chapter 13 says at the end of time, he's going to cause everyone to receive a mark in their right hand. Now, the King James says in, I-N. All the other new versions say on the hand or on the forehead. King James says in the hand or in the forehead. Just changing one letter makes a difference.
Wow.
So that's another reason I would stick with the church that uses the King James. But in my book, I cover some of the technology, what on earth is about to happen. The book of Daniel in the Bible starts giving some prophecies about what's coming in the future, and the book of Revelation kind of finishes it up. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus' disciples asked him, Lord, when are you coming and what's the sign? And he answered their question. Same story told in Mark 13 and Luke 21. And at the end of my book, I put all the passages side by side on the chart there so you can compare them. He answered their question. He said, guys, I'm coming back after the tribulation. When the sun and the moon go dark, that's the sign. And so that got me curious, and I found 10 times in the Bible where it talks about the sun and the moon going dark. Isaiah 13, Revelation 6:12, etc. So I try to cover in my book there what is going to happen according to the Bible, and the last, 10 pages, maybe it's 16 pages. What should we do about it? What do you do? Here's what's going to happen. What do you do? If you knew an earthquake was going to hit Sacramento, California tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, do tonight? We'd go around, nail things down, fasten dressers to the wall, and make sure you keep your shoes by your bed, and there's things you can prepare for a hurricane when they come and hit Florida or Alabama. Sure, you can prepare some. What do you do to prepare for what's coming? And so I give a long answer in section appendix 7 of my book. Okay, now we see what the Bible says is going to happen. What should we do about it? Number one, make sure you're going to heaven. Make sure you're saved. Jesus Christ died on the cross 2,000 years ago. Accept his payment. Receive him now, like right now. Lord, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Come save me.
Right.
It's like planting a seed. The dirt is 100% stupid. Dirt has absolutely no idea how to make a tree. None. The seed knows how to make the tree, but it can't do its job unless the dirt will receive it. So they work together in a magic relation here. You open the dirt, drop the seed in, and the seed makes the tree, but it can't do it outside of the dirt. I'm just the dirt, and Jesus is the seed. And 48 years ago, I received him into my heart as my Savior, and he's growing inside of me. So I'd say primarily make sure you're going to heaven. But you better watch the news and see what's happening to Christians around the world right now.
Yes.
I mean, right now, they're being shot, beheaded, crucified. In Iraq, Iran, Syria, the Muslim countries, they will crucify Christians and leave the bodies up for days just to terrorize the rest of the people. Wow. It's happening now. In Revelation, it talks about 10,000 times 10,000 who were martyred, beheaded for the cause of Christ. Well, what religion beheads people? Yeah, watch the news, So 10,000 times 10,000 is 100 million that are going to be killed, martyred for their faith.
Wow. Now, I have a question about the 4 horsemen that's in the book of Revelation. Can you give us a brief? I know that we have about less than 5 minutes, and then of course Zoom will actually close out our webinar because I would love to continue if you're available. I know you are a busy man. You're also coming out here to the San Francisco Bay Area in August, so everybody needs to watch out for that. He will be here in the flesh. Yes, and he's looking for anyone who's willing to or wants to debate him on the evolution versus creationist. So, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, let me call up, my Bible's out in the car. I'm speaking at the church tonight. But Revelation chapter 6 is what you're referring to. It talks about the 4 horsemen. There's 4 great beasts talked about in Daniel chapter 7. You really have to start with the book of Daniel to study the future. But Daniel chapter 7 talks about the 4 beasts that are going to fight for world domination. It says the first one is a lion with eagle's wings. In my book, I say this is most likely America-England alliance, because we're the eagle and they're the lion. The second beast is a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth, most likely Russia. It's probably going to devour 3 of its neighbors, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, Ukraine, I don't know. And the third beast is a leopard with 4 wings on its back, which is, in my book, I say this is speculative. It's probably an Asian alliance, China, Japan, Korea, I don't know. They're going to get together. It's going to be a competition for market value, for dollars. It's always about the money. And the fourth beast is simply called a beast with iron teeth. There's no animal represents it. I take that to probably be the Muslim world, Islam, in Daniel chapter 7. But in Revelation chapter 4, or chapter 6, yeah, I got it here. It talks about the four beasts. Let me call it up. If you look down at Revelation chapter 6, verse 12, that's where it talks about the sun and the moon going dark. So the first horse in Revelation 6 is a white horse, and he has a bow and a crown, and he went forth conquering. But it doesn't say he has any arrows. I think this represents he's going to use false peace. Just have a bow. Hey, I come in peace. Oh, look, I'm unarmed. I've got a bow, but no arrows. So most people think that's probably the interpretation of the white horse, the Antichrist coming and conquering by flatteries rather than by sword. And the second one is a horse that's red, and he took peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. That's Revelation 6:4. I think there's going to be World War III coming very soon, probably involving every country in the world. And verse 5 says he opened the third seal, and the third, as it was a black horse, and he had a pair of balances. And he said there's going to be a measure of wheat for a penny. Well, if you know in your Bible, in the King James Version, a penny was considered a day's wages.
Yes.
Well, let's take to say 60 or 70 bucks is a day's wages today, minimum wage, okay? What would it do to the price of food if wheat was $60 or $70 a bushel? What would that do to a loaf of bread price or a hamburger? Or what we're going to see is famine because the price of food is going to skyrocket. You're going to see, you have, just like many countries of the world today, they work hard all day, 7 days a week, just to avoid starvation.
Wow.
They don't even think about buying a TV or a phone or a hamburger. You know, they're just poverty level. Most of the world is that way. It's coming to America. So the fourth horse that he says here, let me get you'll find out when you get old, get the glasses on. The fourth seal, the fourth beast said, come and see. This is in Revelation chapter 6 and verse number 7. And he saw a pale horse, and his name was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. I think we're going to see wild animals going crazy. People being killed by the neighborhood squirrel or possum or raccoon, maybe diseases, rabies. So there's going to be a fourth of the world probably killed during this time frame. And then the rapture takes place, where the whole world is headed for real catastrophe. And I covered that on my book, What on Earth is About to Happen. My job is not to try to paint a picture that everybody wants to see. I'm just telling you what the book says.
Right.
That's what it says. And I think any man of God, what people do with it's up to them. So first, get saved. Second, get everybody else saved that you can. Send revival. What America needs is the Christians to get busy and do what God told them to do. 2 Chronicles 7:14, God said, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I'll heal their land. You can read the whole verse there, 2 Chronicles 7:14. The solution to America is for Christians to get right with God. We are the problem with this country.
Wow.
And the world. We're not doing the job he told us to do.
Wow. Now, the last thing, Dr. Hovind, that I'd like to ask, and we'll probably have to close out this segment because, of course, I know that you've got a busy schedule, and then I have to get you prepped for tonight because you are going to be on Sports Overnight America on sportsbyline.com. And the last question is, now, you recently was just released by the feds, I should say.
Sure.
And, people were wondering, well, the first thing that people see is, of course, well, he was convicted. He is a felon. Why is he, but people forget that Jesus was also persecuted. John and John the Baptist and people through the gospel has been wrongfully accused, has been imprisoned, Jesus didn't take the chariot home leaving this world.
Well, Joseph in the Bible was convicted of attempted rape on his boss's wife. He went to prison. He went to prison for attempted rape. Was he guilty? No, absolutely not. I can stand before God and say, I did not break any laws, but you're right. The feds had me. They came in with a SWAT team to our house, to our ministry, and they said, we want you to get every DVD number 5 you can find. Oh, wow. My DVD number 5 of my series is where I talk about the dangers of evolution. It is the foundation philosophy behind communism, socialism, Marxism, Nazism, the New World Order. And I spell it out on DVD number 5. This theory of evolution is not only stupid, it's dangerous. And so that's really why they put me in prison, because of what I taught on number 5, which is part of the series. They can get on drdino.com. But they arrested me. I said, what am I being arrested for? They said, you're arrested for structuring. I said, what is that? They said, 5 years ago, you took your money out of the bank in amounts less than $10,000. Yeah, we were building all of our stuff. We had a bunch of college students working for us. I'd give them for $3,000 in the pickup truck and say, go buy shingles for this house, and here's $6,000, go buy cabinets. We were remodeling the 3 houses we bought, or 6 houses we bought in the neighborhood, and for Dinosaur Adventureland, for the ministry. Never a crime at all. The Congress passed a stupid law that said if you take out over $10,000, the bank has to fill out a form. Okay, the bank can fill out all the forms they want. So then the drug dealer started taking out $9,500 in the morning and $9,500 in the afternoon to avoid that reporting requirement. And so Congress passed another law and said, if you take out over $10,000 in one day, but you break it up in 2 smaller chunks, you have now structured your transactions to evade the reporting requirements.
Wow.
Well, we never did that. The pastor said, keep your withdrawals under $10,000 if you can, while you're building all this stuff, because they're going to think you're a drug dealer. Well, I'm 64 years old. I've never tasted alcohol. I've certainly not taken drugs, okay? I did smoke 2 cigarettes when I was 12, but I didn't inhale. I was just being stupid with the neighbor kids. Anyway, I never broke any laws at all. So they arrested, my attorney said, don't even give a defense. This is crazy. There is no law broken here. Because the law says more than 10,000, and you took out less than 10,000 once every 2 weeks. 1 withdrawal. 2 weeks later, 1 more withdrawal. It was never more than, not in one day like it's supposed to be. So we said, we rest, no defense. The judge then changed the jury instructions and said, if you find Kent Hovind took out less than 10,000, you must find him guilty. Have you ever taken out less than $10,000 from your bank?
Absolutely.
The maximum sentence was 0 to 6 months. The judge said, this crime is worse than rape. I'm enhancing this to 10 years.
Wow.
They sentenced me to 10 years in federal prison for structuring, taking our own money out of our own bank.
Wow.
Did not break any laws. There's a website, KentHovind.com, that if you want to really get all the details on it, I did not break any laws. The government broke probably 100 laws to put me in prison. Then the U.S. attorney went down after they put me in prison, seized the church bank account, stole all the money out of it, and then he got on an airplane a couple weeks later and flew to Detroit to have sex with a 5-year-old and got arrested and hung himself in jail. He put me in jail for structuring, and he's a child pervert. So you better check this out before you accuse me of breaking some law. I did not break any laws.
Wow. Wow. And
but I did go to prison. I did go to prison for nearly 9 years. They moved me 32 times while I was in prison. I wrote that book you're holding there.
Wow. And and I read many things about the diesel therapy, never heard of it in my 42 years of life until I read up on your case. And then also too, when of course, Easter is coming up. And of course, where, our Christ has resurrected, and how Jesus Christ was actually illegally arrested. It kind of reminded me about what happened to you. Like, everything about your case was not based on facts, but they built a case towards you. And I just wonder, who was the Judah? And, of course, in your circle that was reporting things, right? There's got to be a Judah somewhere in there. And it behooved me. I was actually really sad. I actually cried when I was watching your story. Because as Jesus walked with 12 disciples that witnessed every miracle that he has done, it almost seemed that when you and Joe got arrested, many flee. And some, you of course had some solid people that believed in you and that came through, but the majority just left and gave up like the disciples did. Do you find that amazing? Because you brought so many people to Christ in prison. Do you believe it was God's plan, or it was a purpose, the process?
I think God uses things. Man does evil things, and God turns it around. God did not make me go to prison. Evil people did that, but God used it. I led 800 men to the Lord. I wrote 37 books. I earned 2 more doctorate degrees. And so, you know, yeah, I don't want to do it again, but I think God used it. Okay.
I surely hope not. Now, Dr. Hovind, before we come to a close here on RieRie Talk Show, what would be that message that you want to give our audience here today? Because we have a very broad audience from different, you know, places of the spectrum. It's very diverse. It's very dynamic. I have professionals. I have, you know, single, marriage, people who are in the corporate world, people who are in Hollywood, and people who were atheists and that converted Christians. What would be that message that you would want to convey to our audience today?
Well, I've come to believe, after 48 years of being a Christian, that the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate. And it says in 2 Peter, the scoffers are ignorant of the creation, the flood, and the coming judgment. I think everybody should really study those 3 topics. What was that creation like? Genesis 5 says they lived to be 900 years old.
Ooh.
What was different? And reptiles never stop growing. So if they could live to be 900, they'd be huge. That's your dinosaurs, not millions of years ago. They're big lizards with Adam and Eve. I think we should study the flood. That shows God's hatred for sin and his judgment of the world. And I think we really need to study what's coming next, because it's coming right around the corner. I think we're headed for World War III, probably, I'm going to pick a wild number and say in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe less.
Wow.
We're headed for.
And I'm seeing everybody posting on your website, Dr. Hovind, do you see the World War III while Donald Trump is in office or whatnot? But I love the fact that you said, you know, what we need to do, because in those days, we lived up to 900. And because of our sin, I believe, and I read also, and it was from your teachings, that our lifestyles and our livelihood has declined majorly in time. So I don't understand why evolution says that we've evolved when we actually declined. We've been cutting our life short.
Well, video number 2 of my series is called The Garden of Eden. I explained there why they live to be 900 and why you won't make it to 900. What is different now from then? So they need to watch that hour-and-a-half video. It can't summarize that in 2 minutes. Right. But I think I would encourage people, and it's not because it's me, I would encourage people to get my video series, 18 hours. It includes one of the debates I did against 3 professors at once, 3-on-1. In there, one of the atheists asked me the question, where did God come from? And I gave about a 4 or 5 minute answer that just seemed like it came straight from God. And that's going viral all over the internet. Just Google, where did God come from? By Kent Hovind. And that's just a clip of that one debate I did. So they can get that debate.
That was the one that
and,
how I found
18...
you.
Oh yeah, okay. They get that debate and my 18-hour seminar for $50. I mean, and that includes shipping. You can't beat a deal like that. Just call the office, 855. Yeah, our office is 855 Big Dino, like a big dinosaur. 855 Big Dino, or go to drdino.com. And we have all my debates. 20 of them are available on DVD. You can get a package of those, and we have a lot of material. We just want to help strengthen people's faith in the Word of God.
That is awesome.
Draw the whole.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kent Hovind. Now, I know that people are screaming for Bill Nye, because I actually made the mistake to say on public radio last Tuesday that I thought you debated Bill Nye already. But what somebody did on the internet, they actually took Ken Ham's, debate with Bill Nye. Well, Bill Nye was asking his questions. They put your video right next to his and combined it. So it was as if you two had a debate face to face, but it was actually created by one of your followers. So if Bill Nye wanted to debate you, I know you are ready. So are we calling up Bill Nye?
Ready. You tell him anytime with half my brain tied behind my back.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll take on. Tell you what, get any university to get any number of I'll take on 10 at a time. It can be 10 against 1. If I get half the time, I want half the time. I want the moderator to make sure the evolution side gets 50%, not each person. Their whole team. They can choose which person answers. I'll take on 10 or 20 or 30 at a time. If I get half the time, and we talk about one topic at a time.
That's awesome.
You want to talk about carbon dating? I'm way more than ready. You want to talk about dinosaurs? I'm ready. You want to talk about evolution? The guys are smarter than I am, but I will slaughter them because I'm right and they're wrong.
And that is his slogan, ladies and gentlemen. And you heard it here live, RieRie Talk Show, where let's talk, keep it real, and move forward. And that's exactly what Dr. Kent Hovind is all about. So Bill Nye, if somebody that is watching my show today, if you know how to get in contact with Bill Nye, the science guy, well, I've got the man of God, Dr. Kent Hovind, who is calling you out on a challenge on evolution versus creation. So this is Marie with RieRie Talk Show. Tune back in. We might have a